they increase the cooldown or the recovery time of cast on crit from being able to cast every 2 seconds to being able to cast every wow, okay, hang on. What's up, YouTube? Demi here with another build guide. This is a cast on crit discharge assassin update. Taste the lemon. I made this build a long time ago, but they nerfed a bunch of things about it, and then they buffed a bunch of things about it this league in 3.5 Betrayal League. So cast on critical strike support has gone from 0.5 seconds cooldown, which means you cast discharge twice a second, to 0.15 second cooldown, which means you cast somewhere around 8 to 9 times a second, which is pretty, pretty huge multiplier to our overall DPS. I've remade the character with like the new shaper items and whatnot, and it's gotten a lot better. It just feels a lot better. Everything about it is a lot like smoother since the cooldown is so much faster. And of course, it's still just as laggy as it's always been, which I quite enjoy. Let me just do a quick map here so you can see what it plays like. The thought process is you're using COSPRI'S MALICE though, which means that you get to shield charge around, and anytime you crit with any melee skill, Cyclone, shield charge, whatever it might be, you will discharge. Because you have two discharge setups. You have one in your sword and one in your chest. The chest one's linked to Cyclone. The one in your sword only casts when it casts whenever you crit anything. It's really dumb, really fast. I don't even have movement speed on my boots, and you can see I go fairly quickly. This is a tier 16 shaped underground sea, or sorry, Elder underground sea. And I can still one-shot majority of the time with shield charge, but Harbingers, there's enough mobs that I can just get a good spam going. Oh, no good fragments that time, what the heck. Come on, give me some mobs. There's no way around that lag. It's a game issue, not client issue, not my computer issue rather. It's just how it works. Where'd you go? Alright, double phase now, I forgot. I hate that they made this a 2-phase boss. It's like the smartest nerf they could have done to this map. They're like, how do we make the map worse without making people think about it too much? Well, if you give the boss 2 phases, and we're all forced to sit here and wait for the invuln stage and also do another like set of DPS, it gets a lot worse, right? But yeah, there's some mapping, whatever. So, concept, skill tree, gear, all that stuff. Let's start with the Ascendency, I guess. We are Assassin because it's the most reliable source of crit in anything. Yeah, it's just, you get a shitload of crit and base crit and power charge generation, all that stuff. So the foe support, I'll do this in order. Normal lab, you're going to grab Unstable Infusion. This gives you crit and power charge on crit, which is huge. It just gives you full power charges all the time, more or less, as long as you have reliable crit, which is pretty easy to get as an assassin. And then after that, you go for Deadly Infusion. This gives you crit multi per power charge, base crit while you're at max, and +1 max power charge is incredibly powerful. After that, you're going to go for Opportunistic. You get a bunch of movement speed, you get single target damage, you can't reflect crit damage, you take no extra damage from crits when there's one enemy nearby. So like in that last section when I was fighting the boss, I can't take crit damage, and I get bonus damage, so it helps our single target out immensely and our defensive stats while boss fighting, which is by far the weakest stage of when this character is like existing. And then we go for Ambush and Assassinate. We get a bunch more crit for against full life and against low life enemies, which helps guarantee our crits. And we get Culling Strike with crits as well. Pretty good. As for the skill tree, we're going to grab a ton of generic damage, LE damage, spell damage, crit multi stuff. Some energy shield here, a lot of power charges. I'll go over the jewel sockets in a minute. I have some accuracy nodes because I was struggling with a little bit of accuracy, but there's ways around that with your gear, obviously, and jewels. Attack speed there because shield charge is our movement skill. The more attack speed you have, the more clear speed you get, basically. A bunch of ES all res here, more ES, crit multi, CI. We are Chaos Inoculation. We're immune to chaos damage. We're all energy shield based. Some more effect here. It's actually pretty powerful, especially when you're using things like, what's it called? War Banner and Discipline and whatnot. We have Ghost Reverse, we can actually leech. More crit multi, energy shield stuff. More energy shield, bunch of area damage stuff. Flask Effect, because I want to go even faster. Power charges, spell damage per power charge. More energy shield, L Equilibrium. So, important mechanic here. COSPRI'S MALICE is a pure cold damage sword, right? So, when you discharge, it consumes your charges and it gives you base damage per charge. So if I'm using endurance and power charges, which I am, I get fire and lightning damage. This means that if I hit with cold damage, they get negative fire and lightning resist, And the order of operations for cast on crit to even work in the first place is I have to crit with a melee skill. So I have to hit them with cold and crit. They get negative fire and lightning. I then discharge fire and lightning, and they get positive fire and lightning resist. But for the next spell to go off, I have to crit again with cold. So it's just going to keep resetting over and over and over again. They're always going to be lowest resistances to my damage types, which is really important. Huge amount of free damage. Negative 50 resist is higher resist than you get from like a little 21 LE weakness. It's kind of dumb. And it's up on everything all the time as long as you're hitting them. And then we go over to Templar for a bunch more area damage, attack speed, ES nodes. Lots of damage, lots of resist. And here's a cool little jewel interaction, as we're going over the jewels. Intuitive Leap is a really, really powerful node here, or jewel here, sorry. It gives you 1, 2, 3, 4 skill points for free. I guess for 2 skill points. It's some skill point efficiency. It allows you to pick things without actually connecting them. So I get to grab a power charge, I get to grab an endurance charge, and a ES node with all res on it. You could also potentially grab this if you wanted the non-curse aura effect and the strength node, I guess, but I didn't feel like these were really worth taking, so I skipped all that. As for the rest of the jewels, you just go for a bunch of crit multi. You're going to want to use non-abyssal jewels for these sockets, because abyssal jewels can only have 1 crit multi roll. These can roll up to 4 if you're really lucky. I've seen a couple this league with 4 multi on them, because Discharge is tagged Fire, Cold, Lightning, AoE spell. Spell crit multi, Fire crit multi, LE crit multi, Cold, Fire, Lightning. It's real dumb. Anything works. So I go for a bunch of crit multi and attack speed stuff, and then resist and energy shield if you need it. Depending on your gear, you might need some resist. This was, I actually remember paying, I think it was like an X for this, which is just stupidly cheap. Triple multi all res, that's disgusting. Double multi, ES all res, and then I have a Watcher's Eye. So Watcher's Eye, we're using Discipline, right? If you get increased energy shield recovery rate while affected by Discipline, that is a more multiplier to how fast you leech. Default leech rate is 20% of your max per second, so this puts me at, oh god, 28%, 29%, something like that, 27%, I don't know, somewhere around there. And then if I like path down all the way to Vol Pact, it would double that even more. So it's a pretty powerful mod. I also have energy shield gained for each enemy hit while affected by Discipline, which is instant leech, basically. If I discharge in the middle of a pack and hit 30 mobs, I gain 600 ES every 0.15 seconds. It's pretty good, actually. And then this jewel is a Unnatural Instinct. This is not required, but it is ridiculously broken. So your average jewel gives you, like, I don't know, 4 damage mods. If you put this in here and look at this, look how much damage you get. Spell damage, attack speed, cast speed, life, movement speed, 45 crit multi. It gives you all the small passives in the radius. So I get all of these, I get all these, I get these, I get all this stuff, and all these crit multi nodes, movement speed, life nodes. This is the best place in the tree for it. It's stupid. It's really expensive, but it's stupidly powerful. If you don't have this, obviously just get another jewel with like multi on it, attack speed and whatnot. Pantheons, I have Soul of the Brine King and Soul of Gruthkul. It's not super important. A lot of people ask you how you avoid stun on this. It's this. And also, when you are cycloning, you can't actually be stunned in that animation. So most of the time you're shield charging and one-shotting things, and then during a boss fight you're cycloning. So there's very few chances for you to get stunned in the first place. Just use Brine King and whichever one you want. I use Gruthkul usually. Okay, so that's that. Let's go into the gear. Required uniques for cast on crit anything is basically just False Protector. This is really dumb. It gives you a power charge whenever you hit anything with a crit, and you get a ton of power charges out of it. Since we have so much crit on everything, it's just free power charge generation, basically. And then once you can afford it, grab a COSPRI'S Malice. You don't need this. You can just use any like high crit, fast attacking weapon until this. But 5-link Vols is probably like 20 C maybe, and then you grab a fast attacking crit weapon, good to go. Once you get COSPRI'S Malice, try to prioritize the attack speed roll, and after that the cold damage to spells, but mostly the attack speed roll. If you can manage to find one that has 10% LE penetration corruption, really good. If you can have LE penetration plus critical strike chance, double corruption, you're on point. The chest corruptions, +1 gems, +2 AoE gems, max res, increased damage, energy shield, I guess are all good ones. It's a lot of good corruptions there. And then other uniques, if you can afford it, get Evolve's Devotion. This is what generates our endurance charges. So normally we have power charge generation, right, from this and our Ascendency. This, whenever you lose a power charge, you get an endurance charge. So if I crit a bunch, get max power charges, and then I discharge, I can just consume all of those power charges. I then get that many endurances out of it, which is Fizz mitigation as well as a bunch of fire damage to our discharge. The rest of your gear is just energy shield items. So energy shield, energy, accuracy, and intelligence, resist, right? All that stuff. You want all that stuff. This is all of those things. Shield, same thing. You can get a lot of spell crit, spell damage, energy shield, resist, attack, or not attack speed, what is it? Block chance would be nice as well, but just get as much damage in ES and resist as you can. Glove slot, I use Insanity gloves because I want my shield charge to be stupidly fast, which is what the goal is with this character. It's just about fast, clear speed mapping. So I have Insanity gloves with ES, resist, stats, you know, standard stuff. Boots, you can get Shaper boots with cooldown recovery speed up to 15%, prioritize cooldown recovery speed, and then resist, energy shield, movement speed, whatever. As you can tell, I don't have any... Oh, actually, I lied earlier. I forgot I recrafted the prefixes on these. They're not even ES boots. I recrafted them to be life boots now. My bad. I do have movement speed on my boots, but regardless, just go for ES, resist, move speed, whatever. Belt slot, you can also get Shaper belts with cooldown recovery. If you are in Standard, you have access to Shaper Stygian Vises, which are really expensive, but you can get that. In Lee, you're going to need to just use regular Shape belts. So like a Shape Crystal belt would be ideal. But prioritize cooldown recovery speed up to 20%. After that, go for any damage. You can grab ES resist if you need them, you know, general stuff. Energy shield recovery rate would be pretty powerful here as well. This does not have that, but that would be another more multiplier to how fast we leech, just like the Watcher's Eye. Enchantments. So, boot enchant, I have 10% pen. If you haven't killed recently, this helps me on bossing. If you want clear speed, go for the attack and cast if you killed recently. If you want some survivability while mapping and help with your leech, grab the leech enchant. Otherwise, just go with this. Glove enchant, I have Commandment of Winter when hit. It is a crit, or what is it? It's an AoE cold projectile spell that does a lot of crits because it hits so many times. It's kind of like, imagine a cold ball lightning, basically. It's that, but slower, so it hits more. When something hits me, they tend to get this, and then it just kills them. It does so much damage. It's just, it perma-freezes them. It's really powerful. I like it. Helm enchant, you're going to want chance for discharge to deal damage without removing charges. So when I'm at max power charges, max endurance charges, 30% of the time it doesn't use any of those charges, so the next one will be full power as well. And if you're really lucky, it'll chain a couple times on the boss, and you won't run out of charges immediately and then have to regen. It's great. Let's go into the gem links next. So, important links for your COSPRI'S, and once you have one, you're going to want to discharge in there, because it has its own setup. Whenever you crit with this, it'll cast up in here, just like Poet's Pen. So I have a discharge linked to control destruction, increase crits to guarantee that it crits and gets a bunch of damage out of it. You don't want to use LE Focus here because you can't shatter with LE Focus. You can't like chill, freeze, shock, any of that stuff, so don't use that. If you have enough damage, you could also use increased AoE for more clear speed, but I like control destruction, it's solid. Your main links for Cyclone will be Cyclone, cast on crit, discharge, increase crits for a 4-link. After that, you're going to add Power Charge on Critical Strike. This gives you more damage per Power Charge, but also a bunch of like increased chance to gain Power Charges and crits. Really powerful stuff. And then Conk Effect as your last 6-link for more damage. You could use LE Focus here, but again, you can't shock, freeze, whatever, so you kind of want to use non-removing ailment stuff. I recommend Conk Effect. Other setups, I'm using Discipline and Blasphemy Poacher's Mark. Discipline just gives you a bunch of flat ES. And then Blasphemy Poachers. Poachers is actually really, really powerful. It gives you double flash charges gained, right? And then you get Frenzy Charges, which gives you more attack speed as well as more damage to your discharge and just more overall damage. It also has Cursed Enemies have less evasion. If you're struggling with accuracy like I was, it means that your accuracy rating gets like multiplied by the fact that they have less evasion. It's not like you can't see it, but in Path of Building, it jumps your chance to hit up pretty high. It's good. You also get some increased, mana when you're hitting enemies with your attacks, which helps with sustaining against single target and in general. Let's see what else we got. Gem links. We got a cast when damage taken, Immortal Call setup for some Fizz immunity. We also have Endurance Charge generation, so we can level this up higher. That would be great. But if you don't have any strength, don't worry about the level. The level only increases the buff duration per Endurance Charge removed. The base duration will always stay 0.4 seconds. I also have a high level Ice Golem, which gives me accuracy and crit, stuff we need. My shield charge setup in the actual Insanity gloves, if you have them. If you don't have Insanity gloves, if you're using like, I don't know, an Elder Helmet with base crit would be good, because you want your shield charge to crit so that it casts the stuff in your COSPRI'S. So I have shield charge linked with Fortify for the less damage taken, and then faster attacks, of course, and increased critical strikes. That way the shield charge will generally always crit. What do I have on here? 36% without power charges. I think it goes up to like 80% with diamond and max power charges and whatnot. And then my other setup here, I have a war banner linked to increased duration Vol Righteous Fire, sorry. The increased duration is mostly for Vol RF. Vol RF gives you, oh god, what was it? 39% more spell damage. Pretty solid, and I think it lasts, oh god. I don't remember. 7 seconds. So you get 7 seconds to kill a boss with this, basically, which I don't think I did at that last boss. War banner also gives you a 51% increased accuracy rating, which is really good. And then if you place the banner, which I basically never do, you get adrenaline, which is a bunch of attack, cast speed, and damage, if I remember right. So on bosses, I'd recommend doing that, but I don't remember to do it ever, so. You can, but I don't. It's just for the accuracy, more or less, and it reserves barely any mana, which is pretty nice. Actually, I should unlink that, so I have even more mana. It doesn't matter. I have enough mana. Okay, other stuff. I think that's all the links. Jewels in your belt. You have one Stygian, or one Abyssal if you have one. If you don't have an Abyssal, put one in your tree that has Onslaught on kill, basically. So you get 20% attack, cast, movement speed for clearing. It's really important. Otherwise, just, I don't know, use an Onslaught Flask, I guess, if you don't have this slot available. As for the flask slots, I'm using a Diamond Flask with Bleed, a Basalt Flask with Freeze, a Stibnite Flask with Shock, because I'm using a Vinktar's, which shocks me. Vinktar's gives me added damage to spells and Leech, basically. The instant Leech doesn't work, because I'm not life-based. Then I'm using Quicksilver with movement speed. This is the most movement speed you can get out of a flask. It's really dumb. The Freeze, Shock, and Bleed, you can freely switch that between the 3 flasks. You could also switch this out for a Granite or a Jade, or like whatever you feel like. You could use a Resist flask if you're struggling with Resist. It really doesn't matter. I just like the blind. I will also say with the Basalt Flask, you want to have 24% reduced, at least 23% reduced charges used, so that you actually get 2 uses out of it. Otherwise, it'll only give you 1, which is kind of annoying, so make sure that has that. The rest of them, you can do whatever. Is there anything else I need to say? I believe that's it. Character's pretty dumb. It's pretty good. I'll include the forum guide in the description below this video if you just want to like have a written guide for referencing during leveling or whatever. I also say during leveling, you're basically going to have a crit spellcaster, more or less, and you're probably going to want to level as life-based and then respec into ES-based when when you have the currency and the gear. But these nodes are hybrid, these nodes are hybrid. Let's see, let me just help you a little bit. So you just take the life nodes, right? And the instead of this stuff, you would just grab these life nodes. This is hybrid. There's life nodes here you can grab. There's life nodes here you can grab. There's life nodes here you can grab. It's not that many skill points to switch it up, you know? There's also life nodes here if you're still struggling. It's pretty easy to just take out ES nodes and put into life nodes, and you'll be alright. That's also how you play it as a life-based character. Except for instead of ES gear, you grab life gear, and instead of a shield like this, you use a Lycosidé, so you have a 100% chance to hit, which means you can drop Poacher's Mark for Assassin's Mark, and you can drop War Banner for whatever the hell you want, basically. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the build guide. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you want to, come over to the stream, follow me on twitch.tv/Demi. You can watch me stream live, and just hang out and ask questions, whatever you want. But I'll see you guys in the next video. That'll be Demi out.